counselor to President Trump.
Also with us, Fox News contributor Juan Williams, Trey Gowdy, former congressman from South Carolina and host of Sunday Night in America, and Josh Kraushaar, senior political correspondent for Axios. All right, Karl, what are you looking at right now? You see some of these results from our Fox News voter analysis, and you have all the knowledge you have.
That's not much right at this moment. Look, what's interesting to me is this is like a campaign with two different agendas being talked about. Normally we fight over big things, the war in Vietnam, the war in Iraq. But this is two different issues, sets of issues. The Republicans are talking about the economy and inflation. They're talking about crime. They're talking about the border. And the Democrats are talking about abortion, threats to democracy, and climate. And these things don't intersect. And so each party is out there talking to a different segment of the electorate. The problem for the Democrats, twofold. One is the Republican issues are more important to the voters. We saw that with the issue of 51% think the economy and inflation is the #1 issue. So their issue set is not as important. Second of all, problematic for them, independents in this election are looking more like Republicans. That is to say, their concerns are more like the Republican concerns than the Democratic concerns. And finally, the interesting thing to me is one of the issues that the Democrats have put a lot of emphasis on is threats to democracy. And yet there's a new ABC Washington Post poll that showed that their lead on this issue is 47-43. That is to say, they are thought by 47% of the people to be better able to handle that issue than the Republicans, who got 43. And why? Because each side has its own description of what those threats to democracy are. So you have conservatives and Republicans saying, a government that doesn't, gives away $500 billion without passing a law through Congress, or one-party rule, or the politicization of the DOJ or the FBI. All of these kinds of things are seen by people on the right as threats to democracy, as well as the January 6th attack on the Capitol is seen by people on the left and right as a threat to democracy.
Kellyanne's great point. I mean, that's the world that we live in, where each side has the issues that they're most fired up about, and it kind of seems like they're living in two separate countries almost at times. You've looked at the Fox News voter analysis as we get a gauge of what's on people's minds. What do you think so far?
So, Martha, this country no doubt is divided. Our Senate is divided. Washington is divided. Some of our households are divided. But the country is not divided on the biggest issues that are motivating them to the polls in these midterms. Over 70% of Americans tell the Fox News pollsters and other pollsters that they are very or extremely concerned about crime, about inflation, about immigration and border security. And yet the Democrats have taken a huge gamble on creating this parallel universe and talking about something totally different. We'll see if their gamble pays off. The other thing that is not in doubt is that you're dealing with a very unpopular president whose disapproval rating has been over 50% for a year. Independents are leaning far more toward Republicans. Will they show up? I think for independents, the big question in midterms is not just for whom to vote, but whether to bother at all. Some of those partisans, particularly Democrats, voted early. I think the Democrats were able to bank their votes early. The other thing is the Republicans, I think this time, have gambled on expanding the electorate. And now the Republican Party's electorate, the voters, look a lot more like America, and so do their candidates. And we'll see if that gamble actually pays off. I believe it will. The Republicans have invested in what I call the non-sexy stuff in politics, not just the big TV ads or the rallies or the candidate. They have talked to voters, 100 million contacts, 1 million volunteers. The data in digital from 10 years ago when Romney lost and they did their autopsy is much better. One other thing I'm looking at tonight, if it's real that these suburban women, 20% of the electorate, are trending Republican, I think many of them are not voting their gender, they're voting their kids. And they're still out there as parents a year after Glenn Youngkin took Virginia and Jack Ciattarelli, New Jersey, almost did. They are still parents. They're still upset about lost learning and reduced test scores. Little bit of abortion, a lot of inflation and crime, but so much education is a sleeper issue in this election.
Yeah, we'll see how that breaks down.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to